What's happening, my wellness friends? This is AJ Webb, your SLV Health Wellness Coordinator, and this is a recap of the West Spanish Peak hike that myself, members of the Human Resources team, and other brave souls from SLV Health completed the other Saturday. A lot of folks have been asking me, hey, what was that like, and what should I bring, and what should I do? And this isn't going to be quite a comprehensive video on everything you need to do to get 13,600 feet up in the clear blue sky, but it should give you some information in a few different perspectives. On the skinny, short pieces of information, you can expect to take about an hour, hour and a half to drive there. You might need a vehicle with a little bit of extra clearance. However, we did see lower sitting vehicles up on Cordova Pass, which is where you start this hike. If you go to alltrails.com, you can find all the other information on how to get there, what to expect. Is about an hour through the woods, maybe an hour and a half. Then you get yourself into 2.5, possibly 3 hours of shale, rock, semi-marked kind of trails that are marked by these things called cairns, which was the word of the day. But go to alltrails.com, find out about this hike, and I think it is a doable hike. As far as if you got a general level of fitness, you can probably gut through this. If you're pretty fit, it's going to be a pretty straightforward. And if you're working on your fitness, I think that this is a great way to test it out every year. Maybe one year you go up the trail and back, maybe you go to the parking lot, and you can maybe increase your intensity, or how far you go up the mountain. I found it straightforward because it seemed like it'd be hard to get lost. Things were well marked. There was people out there. I never really felt that I was going to have to wait. Like, I always felt like I could walk back to the truck. There'd be people there. There'd be restrooms there, things like that. So what I wanted to do is I sat down with Morey, Aldridge, Zach Masterson, and got their perspectives on their experience hiking the West Spanish Peak. This is nothing to take lightly. You're not going to want to just go out there and Rambo your way up there hungover or anything like that. You're going to want to prepare yourself to the best of your ability, be smart, make good choices, and do your homework on what it's going to take for you to scoot up a mountain safely. Please remember that going up the mountain is optional, going down is mandatory. That's the thing I heard on an Everest documentary, but basically it's about being smart, understanding your own fitness level, and making good choices. If you're thinking about hiking this, I would recommend it if you'd go and do your homework. I hope that the perspectives that you hear from myself, Morey Aldridge, and Zach Masterson will help you make a choice on whether or not that you want to go and do this thing. I would say while it was difficult, while it was strenuous, there wasn't a single one of us from SLV Health that came down off that mountain going, man, I wish I hadn't done that. So for what it's worth, this is a good challenge. This is a challenge worth doing. Very good team building event. I gotta take my hat off and chuck it towards the Human Resources team. This was kind of Mandy Crockett's idea. This mountain's right in her backyard, and she's climbed it a few times, so she was like our guide. Karen McKee was awesome because she put together the logistics, threw stuff out in the pulse, and that team was super supportive of one another in getting up and down that mountain. I also want to thank all the other folks that came out and participated. It was a lovely experience. I hope this interview and these different perspectives will help you make up your mind whether or not you want to go up the West Spanish Peak. Enjoy. Gadget's going to record I don't know if it's like a response or reaction, but so we all got to go and hike the West Spanish Peak Trail, and we had a variety of different experiences. We did it. Some of us went to the top. Some of us brought their children and shared that outdoor experience, and they're bad climbers, or they're climbers that are at least working on it. So let's talk about what this trail mountainy kind of experience was like for us. I had not hiked this before, so this was kind of new to me. It was it's kind of in the backyard of our fearless HR director Mandy Crockett's. It's in her backyard. So, but I found this to be like a pretty cool experience. Like, it was really nice, it was good looking, and I didn't really feel like I was gonna get lost the whole time. And for me, as like a kind of newer outdoorsy type, that was handy. So let's just talk about that. Zach, had you climbed very many mountains prior to this one?
No, not very many. I've done some hiking, but not much to top of any mountains, especially not something that's close to 14,000. So,
Yeah, very close. That's like 13.6?
Something like that, just a couple hundred
like
off.
Morey, how about yourself? Messing around on too many mountains? Is this like a first-time thing for you?
First time thing for me.
Wow,
Me and my
very
kids.
nice.
It was fun.
And you blamed Randy for this catastrophe?
It's all Randy's fault.
You know,
She's like, so I want to go climb this mountain, and I'm like, okay. She goes, we're gonna go take the kids, and I'm like, okay.
What a good sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So I had thought about bringing my kids, but I wanted to go mess around with it prior. So kudos to you for coming in cold, sight unseen, and bringing the little ones, because it's awesome to share. But I found that when I involve my children and stuff, I really need to change my expectations on what's going to happen, because it's not like they're going to be beating me to the top. So what was that like for you? Well, so we kind of got an idea about where we all started from as far as our mountaineering experience. No extreme mountaineers in this room yet. What was the drive up like? So we had to go to Cordova Pass. It's by La Vida and Cachara. There were some back roads. Zach and I, we rode in a truck with a few other coworkers, and that was nice. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to like road conditions, but they seemed pretty reasonable. I didn't remember getting thrown around or anything like that. Zach, what did you think about our car ride? It seemed pretty smooth, huh?
Yeah, it definitely seemed pretty smooth. I know Mandy had said that she wasn't sure, especially with all the rain we got this year, what the conditions would be like. But I think, we went up in a truck, but I don't think that that's a necessity if you're going up. I think it's definitely possible to use something else. But having the truck was definitely nice.
Definitely nice, but not necessarily required. Now, Morey, what was your experience? What kind of vehicle did you take?
We took our Subaru Forester, and it seemed to work just fine. I mean, as long as you paid attention to where you were going, you would be fine.
I think having some clearance was definitely nice. It's a little bit of an insurance policy. But I think it would have been manageable for some other vehicles. I think one of our group took a Chrysler 300 up there. That's a rear-wheel drive vehicle, I believe. Maybe it's all-wheel drive, but not exactly what you think of as far as like going up and down mountainy type stuff. I think we saw some smaller vehicles at the trailhead. Maybe that was a Prius or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I think that if you paid attention, you're going to be able to navigate your way to Cordova Pass and to the trailhead where we started out. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And worst case scenario, someone's got to have a brother-in-law somewhere that's got a truck that you could borrow.
Randy took her truck. We were safe.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Very nice. So, variety of different experiences too. So we get to the trailhead. You brought 4 kids?
Randy brought her 2 kids, her 13-year-old son and her 6-year-old daughter, almost 6-year-old. And I brought my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old.
Awesome. I saw you guys had the eye of the tiger. You guys were ready to go.
They were.
So let's talk about how this starts out. So we park at the trailhead. There were restrooms there. There was a campground there. There was people there. Like, I didn't feel like I wasn't uneasy about being like alone out there. And some people like that solitude of it, but I felt like, someone will find me if I yell really loud. And so I felt good about that. So we get there, we get to the trailhead, and then we start our hike, right? So what's that first part of that hike? What do you remember, Zach? What do you remember, Morey? Zach, go first.
I guess the first thing I really remember was going out into that first clearing. Just a few minutes into the hike, it seemed like maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and looking over to kind of the south side of the mountain and looking over, kind of like the big, like a valley there, and having just beautiful views right off the bat, which was really awesome because, I think my expectation was the higher we got, the more beautiful things we're going to get, like the better views you're going to get. And just 10, 15 minutes in and you're already seeing something that's pretty awesome that you have to stop and take a picture for. And I'm pretty sure everybody in the group did the exact same thing, was stop and take a picture.
Yeah. Great scenery right off the bat. Morey, what was your experience getting that hike going?
It wasn't bad. The kids were ready to go. We were just worried they were going to go down the hill instead of up. They did a great job. They had a blast. Like you said, the scenery was gorgeous as we got right to that clearing. It was beautiful, and the kids were going crazy because my daughter was decided she needed to pick some flowers. They did not survive the trip home.
I know, that's tough. I got a few, and they didn't work out real well for them.
But it was really easy. the trail was marked out really well, and it really wasn't that steep to begin with.
So not too steep. It seemed pretty gradual as we're getting, like it gets ungradual when you start getting into the shale. But the forest part of the trail was nice. Like you said, well marked, right? I wouldn't feel, unconfident in there as far as I would feel like I could turn around at most any point and find my way back. Back to the trailhead, right? So we're going through this thing. I want to say it was about an hour and a half-ish from the trailhead to where we kind of hit the shale, right? To where we kind of poke out of the trees and we start getting into what I'd call the steep and deep of it. Where'd you guys end your hike, Morey?
About right at that turn where it starts going straight up.
Okay, so we
were getting close to the top. Right about where the tree line is where we stopped.
Somewhere in this. It's probably this area. It's hard to see the trail on Google Earth.
Just because the kids were starting to get kind of grumpy and, you can only push them so far before they're done. So we turned around about where it veered off up higher in the steeper trail. So.
And I think that's a good move, too. Again, you have to manage your expectations when you bring the little kids. And one of my goals, even though I don't feel that way in the moment, is try not to make them too uncomfortable, too cold, too tired, too hungry, or anything like that, even though I want to be like, this is building character, right? Some life lesson or something like that. But really a manageable hike for them. Yeah. Definitely. Did they take any naps on the way back?
Let's see. My daughter fell asleep on the way down.
Okay.
We stopped and went to Walsenburg for lunch, and on the way back, my son fell asleep.
There we go. You tucker them out and they go Mimi's.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Very nice. So manageable, and did you have fun on that part of the hike?
It was wonderful.
Awesome. And something that you might not have done otherwise.
No, otherwise, no, I would not have done a hike.
Way to go, dang it, Randy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, first time for everything, right?
Well, very nice. Now, Zach and I, we continued on up into the steep and deep of it. So we hit tree line here, Zach. I want to say it was like an hour and 15, hour and 30, something like that. We stopped. We kind of made ready for a push. Kind of got some yummies in our tummies. I don't think we quite had broken out the peanut butter and jelly and gummy worms yet. But we got some snacks, got ourselves ready, and then we started going up the hill here. So here's the peak at 13,600 feet, pretty high up there. And I want to say, Zach, it was maybe 2.5, maybe 3 hours that we were climbing up in the shale.
Yeah, I would say it was just about the same. You guys broke off a little bit ahead of us for a little while there as well, because we took a couple of breaks, which was very nice, especially on the back when you're carrying a backpack with water and all that. But getting those breaks in really, like you said earlier, kind of gives you that little break to rest up and then kind of make a charge and kind of take some of it off little by little.
Yeah. Let's unpack a few things real quick. So, one, sun-wise, it was a nice day. We had some overcast in the morning. It wasn't overly hot. I didn't feel like I was frying or anything like that. And that was nice. There was a nice breeze, but at the same time, I wasn't concerned about stormy type conditions because there were storms forecasted, but not until later the afternoon. Next was water. Not a lot of running of water around there, if I recall.
No, not really.
Right? So I had 2 liters on my back. That made me I was able to make it up the mountain and down the mountain with that. I think I'd carry 3, being a bigger unit, a 230-pound man. I'd carry some more water for myself, but 2-3 quarts, something like that. I think the recipe on the interwebs was like a liter per hour or something like that, or a liter per 2 hours or something. I don't know. I think everyone should just think about how much water you like to have. Be well hired. This is not something that I would want to do with a very severe hangover,
right?
Especially if it got real hot,
No.
right? I was able to remain clear, conscious the whole time because hiking outdoors and exerting yourself, you can get a little loopy, and I didn't feel that way. I felt like I had enough water with 2 liters. I might bring a little bit more next time. Had some snacks. I had some cheese and some jerky, and some summer sausage, and then a couple of date bars. You had a bunch of jerky, Zach. Morey, did you bring any snacks or anything you guys were grubbing on while you and the kids were going?
Yeah, we had granola bars and
Nice.
and just water, and they did pretty good. I mean, We didn't go obviously as far as you guys did, but the kids did well. They actually didn't need anything till we got back to the car, and we were out there for a while. So
Excellent. And I'm an overpacker because I always know that I can take a little extra, and if I needed to drop some of it off and maybe pick up my date bars or pick up my cheese sticks on the way back, I could run that risk of losing those valuable possessions. But I think everyone should just think about the snacks that you want to take with you, and plan on having a few little rest points, having some snacks, keeping yourself as energized and comfortable as possible. Now, speaking of comfortable, parts of that shale and that steep climb were not so comfortable. Would you agree with that assessment,
No,
Zach?
definitely.
I was looking down at my heart rate monitor. I was getting into the 160s. I was going pretty quick, but my ticker was going. So the taxing part of it for me going up really was kind of the wind and a little bit of stamina, as far as it was like climbing some stairs. Just a lot of stairs, kind of being careful of footwork. What did your body feel like? How'd your body respond, Zach?
So going up that, especially the harder part on that shale, there were a couple times where, I consider myself in somewhat good shape. Not that I hike a lot, but I do run and things like that on a regular basis. And there were times where I was getting winded, and times where I even kind of second guessed, like, wow, am I really thinking I'm going to get to the top here? I think it was really important, because I heard more than just me say that. There were a couple people in our group who said that. And I think it's really important to be able to take those breaks and then push through it and kind of get that sense of achievement once you get to the top. But yeah, I think there was definitely some lag and some hardship on the way up, especially with the labored breathing.
100%. I mean, I think managing my own little mental game when it comes to climbing is something that's important for me in regards to like my own morale. So for me to know that it's an hour and a half to go through the forest, I have that landmark to kind of look for.
Right.
As I was going up the shale, it just felt like I'm just not getting anywhere. Like, okay, there's more underneath me when I turn around, but there's still the same kind of thing. And so I kind of ended up doing like a take 20 steps, rest, look around, maybe grab a swig of water, take 20 steps, rest, and kind of just broken into work rest. That was a good way for me to manage it. But now I know that between 2 to 3 hours, maybe a little bit more, is a good kind of mental marker for me to say, oh, it's been an hour and a half, I think I'll take a break, or whatever it was. That helped me in regards to making a little bit of a game out of myself.
Right.
So I hope that helps people that are watching this to know what to expect. Hour and a half through the forest, you're going to get to the tree line, start getting into the shale, and expect some some steep rock climbing. Now, cairns, that was the word of the day, because cairns, I didn't know that was the name of those little stacks of rocks.
Oh yes.
They're called cairns, that are stacks of rocks that are designed to help you go up, because there were parts of it that really look like trail, like rock on one side, rock on the other, a little bit of dirt in the middle, footprints in there. But there's a few places, I think it's weather dependent, where those kind of wash out. So those cairns, sometimes you have to go rogue, and you're just kind of climbing, looking around, trying not to fall down, and then picking up one of those cairns. And some of them are well placed so you can see them. Others, not so much. So paying attention to those, that was helpful for me. Any other notes or things to think about going up, Zach?
No, not that I can think of. No, I think it was good idea to kind of set goals for yourself of how far you want to get. Kind of like you said, giving yourself a little bit of break. Following those cairns and just doing your best to keep at it and keep going.
Definitely. And the last thing I'll say about going up was, going up is optional, coming down is mandatory. And there's no shame in saying, this isn't quite for me right now, or my head hurts, or I just don't feel right. I'm making poor choices. That's the one thing I've noticed on the mountain, is like, I'll get tired, a little loopy, and all of a sudden I'm hanging onto a rock, putting my full weight on it, and that's probably not a solid strategy for seeing my kids graduate college. So everybody think about that. Think about your own fitness, your own levels. No shame in turning it back around. Now, we get to the top, Zach. What did it look like up there?
Unreal. It was pretty crazy. We could see kind of parts of almost Walsenburg, not quite the town of Walsenburg, but we could see, I can't remember is it Lathrop State Park or something? There's a couple of lakes over there that we could see, which were awesome, kind of to the north side. And then you look down the south side, and you could just see for so far, for so long. I think one thing that was really cool was, and actually Mandy Crockett pointed this out, was we had the spring fire last year, and we looked up, I believe she called it Raspberry Mountain. I'm not 100% positive on that, but you could see right on the ridge of it where there was the burn scar compared to not the burn scar. And that's where they made kind of one of the fire lines of where they were going to stop it on that side of kind of the fight of the fire. And I thought that was really interesting. We're a year out from that, so you did see kind of some growth, but that was really cool to see, how it's already just a year later already redeveloping and getting green again, but there was definitely a difference between, side to side.
Yeah, very interesting to see, but also just a reminder of like how tragic stuff can get if you're not paying attention out there. We're very fortunate that everything turns out the way that it turns out. Way to go, Mother Nature. But something I felt like we were all doing and we didn't really talk about was just trying to abide by good trail etiquette, leaving no trace, which means, I wasn't running down the side, trying to punt as many of those red mushrooms as I could or anything like that. I don't think anybody had to go and make boom boom in the forest, but getting off the trail is a pretty good policy if you have to do such a thing. Again, there's porta potties there, but it seemed like everyone did a really good job of respecting the trail. There was no funny business where I was going, I don't know if that's okay. I saw people picking up extra pieces of litter that they had found. So I think that's something to think about if you're going to go do these things. If we try and leave it nicer than when we found it. I felt like our group was a part of that.
Definitely.
I totally agree with you. Awesome views at the top. The views down below, those were awesome. Awesome views at the top. All this green. You could see the old ski joint, the old ski mountain over there. That was really cool. Let's talk about the descent. We spent some time up there, got ourselves ready, and now, as far as an energy system, like my wind was not going. Like we were able to have a conversation on the way down. I wasn't huffing and puffing, but the stability muscles were kind of in place, right? Just trying to maintain balance, be smart. I did have some hiking poles. If you're into that kind of thing, I recommend practicing with them because they help me just kind of navigate on my way down. But a little bit different energy system. You're already kind of spent. You're already kind of tired. You've had a little nourishment at the top. But then we're heading down. Zach, what were some of your observations heading down?
So heading down was pretty tough. Just getting the, like the proper footing and all that a lot of times because everything looks, a lot of things look sturdy up there and they're not. So it's really important to kind of pay attention. I was lucky enough to be following you, so I could kind of follow in your footsteps.
I'm a good thing to fall on if you got to fall on something.
There you go.
Right.
But there were a couple times that I went down, not hard, not anything that did any damage or anything like that, but at the moment just kind of hitting your ankle bones or hitting your knee or something. You definitely could do something worse than that, but I really think if you're paying attention, which I think one of the reasons I went down was you and I were in some pretty deep conversation. And I was paying attention more up here looking at the beautiful sights instead of down where my footing was. And I think that's kind of where I personally kind of fell short and made myself go down a couple of times. So I think really paying attention and being observant to what you're doing is definitely the best way to kind of keep safe.
And in retrospect, we were kind of just going. We probably could have stood, no pun intended, to stand around a little bit longer, like, hey, let's take 30, 45, let's go 10 minutes and then stop, just to kind of manage our energy just a little bit different. Because, we were lost in conversation a little bit, but also just to give ourselves a little bit of break. As far as footwear goes, I felt pretty prepared with my footwear. I wore a boot that's got a real stiff sole that's kind of made for intense hiking, mountaineering, right? It's got some ankle padding and stuff like that. Zach, you were rocking your running shoes, right? So nice and light, pretty nimble, but where I was a little bit more stove up, I think there's give and take for each one. I think that people should I'm not going to say you should buy boots like mine. I'm not going to say you should go in shoes like Zach. I think people should go in something that they're comfortable. During your hike, Morey, what did you wear shoes-wise? Were there any concerns? How was it for you?
I used my regular everyday shoes. They're Brooks.
Okay.
So they're like running shoes.
Something comfy.
Both my kids wore cowboy boots. So.
Yeah, party.
Yeah.
Awesome. So something to think about. with the shale, I liked the ankle support that I got, but it was also harder for me on the flatter stuff. So I just encourage people to think about the footwear you're going to take, and how comfortable you feel about having to stabilize yourself on the downhill. That's kind of my main concern with it. So we get down. Last thing I'll say about this big up and down through the shale, it's above tree line, not a lot of cover. You're probably going to go and make pee-pee before you
Definitely.
start that, because otherwise you're just going to be kind of exposed on the mountain. You got to do what you got to do. You're going to want to use the potty, before if possible. The summit's a little bit different because you could duck around some rocks and stuff like that, but more than likely, if you drink a whole bunch of water at the top and now you're on your way down, you're going to be kind of exposed. So that's just be a handy hot tip for people to think about. So we get back down, we get back into the trees. It seemed like a smooth hour. What was the walk back like for you, Morey?
It was actually pretty easy. It was very beautiful. We were counting how many different mushrooms we could find.
Yeah, there's some wild colors.
There were like purple ones and like what do they call them? The Mario Brother mushrooms, the bright red ones. Yeah, we had we were checking out the different mushrooms. It was easy going. It wasn't too slick. The path was actually quite nice, even going down. Just had to watch for those loose rocks in certain areas, but
yeah, just paying attention. Still cool stuff to see, including mushrooms the size of a beanbag chair. There were some real big ones out there. Like I was waiting for that caterpillar smoking a hookah pipe to come out and visit us. Right? Very, very interesting stuff. Saw some wildlife, but yeah, we come down. It's nice and cool once you get into the trees, get back to the trailhead. And I think 4 up, 3 down is kind of the standard as per this alltrails.com kind of situation. And I think that helps you manage time-wise. How long do you think it was from the road to Cordova Pass, the trailhead? Was it like 35, 40 minutes by the time you got off the 160 till you got there? I'd say check that out. It's going to be weather dependent. It's going to be vehicle dependent.
And bicycle dependent. There were a lot of bicycles.
There were a lot of bicycles. So there's other people up there doing some stuff, which is encouraging because I feel like I won't get lost. But at the same time, got to be mindful on the way down. You hitting a biker is bad. That's bad juju. That's bad karma. Not good form doing that. Any other closing thoughts? What would you guys tell someone who is thinking about this but isn't quite sure?
If you're not sure, take a group with you. That way you will have to go.
Get some friends, a little peer pressure, right? I don't want to. You're going.
Yeah, that's about how I felt that morning. It's like, do I have to? But then Randy texted me going, okay, we're leaving Monte Vista. I'm like, oh, okay.
What about yourself, Zach?
I would say if you're thinking about it, think about this. I didn't talk to or haven't talked to a single person who came back and said, I regretted going on that day. People who didn't go to the top, people who did go to the top, it didn't matter. We were with a couple of people I was with. We were pretty winded on the way up, and like I said, I was kind of second guessing myself, and I'm sure others were as well. And then we got to the top, and we're like, that was worth every ounce. I would do it again. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's definitely something. I mean, we were on the ride back in the truck, and we were saying, this is something we'd love to do again, whether it's this trail or it's another. It was a really awesome group experience, and I do not think anyone's going to regret it if they kind of pull the trigger and do something, even if it's a little out of your comfort zone. Absolutely satisfying in my experience between the views, spending time with coworkers in a little bit different setting, sharing some different things, talking about your favorite gummy worms, a little bit of casual conversation, very nice, a little shared struggle, right? A little bit of admiration for one another. Anyone that shows up to a mountain with a truck full of kids that's ready to go, Morey, you're awesome already, but that's just boom, putting a nail in the coffin for your awesomeness. I thank you, HR team. You kind of masterminded this, right? As kind of a part of Safety Week, right? And I'd say that someone who's able to go and do these things has a good opportunity of being safe in the workplace because it does require some fitness. But at the same time, this was a very, in my opinion, straightforward and doable to workable kind of a hike. And what I mean is that
you start hitting it maybe in January or something like that. You start thinking about getting yourself nice and stable, hit a few squats, hit a few this, that. It's something that someone can do because like a little bit of a milestone fitness test kind of a thing. Nobody has to go to the top. It's not for everybody, but it could be something that if you're looking to have a little light at the end of the tunnel, like, oh, I'm going to do this workout program for 6 months, something like that, and then I'm going to go try and hit this mountain. Not a bad way to go about it. So thanks to the HR team. Morey, thank you for being so brave, bringing your crew, bringing your clan, showing up. I had a really good time. This was an awesome wellness activity. Brainchild of the HR team. West Spanish Peak. Yeah. Fives.